Hi, this is the part 2 of the Java collection tutorial. In this tutorial, we will learn about ArrayList. So we will learn how to create an ArrayList, add elements to an ArrayList, iterate an ArrayList. We'll understand the internal working and the representation of the ArrayList, how it is actually being handled internally. Then we'll look into removing, searching and replacing elements. And lastly, we will look into something called as a concurrent modification exception. Okay, so let's get started. So the way we can create an array list is by using the array list class and then specifying what kind of elements that we need to add using this generics, right? So let me create, say, a country list. So this is how we declare an array list of type string. Okay, now since this is throwing me an error, so I need to import the array list into my project. So array list is present in your Java util package. Okay, so and this Java util is part of your rt.jar. Okay, so let's add some elements. So basically there are 4 ways by which we can add elements. So we'll look at the simplest way. So I just have some country list ready, so let me just copy. Okay, so this add method, what it does is it will add these elements at the end of the list. Okay, so we will look into the internal representation in a short while, so then we will understand how this is internally working. So now that we have added the elements in this array list, let's look in how we can actually view the data that is there in this array list. Okay, so basically there are 2 ways by which we can see or loop through this array list. Okay, so let's look at the first way. So I'm just saying type 1. So what we can do is we can say for I is equal to 0, I less than, then we can specify the size. We can dot size. Okay, so the size method, what it does is it returns the number of elements that are present in the array list. Okay, so basically what we are doing is we are looping through the array list and we will fetch the elements one by one. So I can say country list dot get, and then I can specify the index. So this is how I can iterate over an array list. Okay, so let's run this program once and see. So I just need to call this method here and see. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to give so now we can see, so this all the elements have been printed. Now let's look at the other way. I'll just copy this, so I can say type 2. Okay, this is the most preferred way. This is what I prefer. So in this I specify the type of element that is there and the collection itself. So see, both are resulting in the same thing. Next we will look into the overloaded methods, okay, that help us in adding elements. The next one is we can specify in which index where we need to add this element. So let me do one thing. So let me add India again. as you know, the indexes starts from 0. Okay, so if I actually see, so this is the 0th element, this is the first element, second, third and fourth. Now when I'm saying add 1 India, I'm saying add India to the first element, that is 0 1. So India should be appearing in the first element. Now since ArrayList can hold duplicates, okay, it will not reject them, it will actually take in. So India would be there in the list. So you can see I've added India in the second list. Okay, so other way we can do add an array is I can have another array list. And what I can do is I can just add few more countries here. Okay, so let me print this before adding, and then again let me print this. Okay, so another overloaded method is add all. Okay, so add all has two flavors. One is I can just specify the entire collection that I'm adding, and the second one is I can specify the index to which I want to add the entire collection. So to be add all. Okay, so let's look into it. Okay, so you see this has been added now, right? So similarly I can also specify the position where I want to add it, right? So I can say I want to add in the second position. So if I do this, so you can see Kazakhstan and Mexico has been added in the second position. Now let's look into the internal representation of that array. How was this array actually represented in the memory? Okay, so to do that, let me put a breakpoint here and then run this program in the debug mode. Okay, now you can see the control is in this declaration method. So once I step over this method, okay, what's happening is it created the array list, country list, right? And you can see currently it is empty. Now if I just expand this, what I can see is internally this array list is nothing but an object array. Okay, it's just an array of objects, and apart from that it actually maintains two variables. One is called the mod count and another one is called the size. We will understand this mod count in some time. So this size variable, what it does is it actually maintains the size of this array. So as soon as I add one more element, you can see the size has been updated to 1. Okay, and if I click on this array list, you can see this has been added. Now internally what array list does is as soon as it finds the first object, that means when we are adding the first object, what it does is it actually creates a array of objects, and the initial length is always 10. Okay, so that is the constant that has been defined in the ArrayList class. Okay, so as and when we are adding more elements, you can see this is getting added. Now what actually happens when this entire array is exhausted, that means when we fill the entire data with 10 elements, so what ArrayList is going to do is it is going to actually expand automatically. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add the same elements again, so 3 times, then we will see how it actually expands. So you can see currently we just have this 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me just increase this 10. Okay, now when we add the next element, see, it's going to expand automatically. See, so this is how it expands automatically, right? And then once it reaches the threshold, again it's going to expand itself, right? So this is how it works. Okay, and then we can actually see the internal representation of the indexes as well as the data that is stored. Next we will look into removing elements from the list. So basically we have two overloaded methods. Okay, the first method is your remove, which takes in the index. So this will remove that particular element which is present in this index, and the second method is your which takes in the element itself or the object itself. Okay, so when I specify the index, what this particular method does is it actually returns me back the element that was returned. Okay, whereas in this case, when it is the element itself, it will return me a boolean saying that whether this element was actually removed or not. So whether the ArrayList could actually find this element and then it could actually remove it or not. Okay, so if it is false, that means it could not find this element, right? So let us run this program. So what I've done here is so I've just printed the list before removing, then we are removing the second element. Okay, and then we are printing the element that was removed. Okay, then we are again reprinting the elements that is there in this array list. Okay, and then we are again removing Germany. Okay, so let me just add this print again here. Okay, so if I run this program now you can see before anything was removed, this was the state of this array list. Okay, then we remove the second element, so that is the first, this is the 0th, first and the second, that means Iceland would be removed. Okay, so after it has been removed, this is the new list, and then we are removing Germany, right? So this is the state of the next we will look into is the searching of the elements in this array list. So the first method that we will look into is the contains. Okay, so what this method actually does is, so this method will actually return true if it can actually find that particular element in that array list. Okay, so what I've done here is I'm trying to search for Australia and for Japan. Now Australia is not present in the list, so ideally it should return false, and I'm searching Japan, so Japan is present in the list, it should return true. Okay, so it is pretty straightforward. So let me just run this program so you can see. So I don't have Australia, so it's returning false. Since I have Japan in the list, it's returning true. Okay, so the next we will look into two more methods. Okay, let me just copy this code. I'm just saving time. Okay, so the first method is index of, and second one is the last index of. So what this index of does is, whenever I'm searching for an element, and if I find the first occurrence of this element, I will actually return the index of that. Okay, now if you see, I have added India again twice. Now when I'm searching India for this particular method, what it will do is, as soon as it finds India, it's going to break and return the index of that method. Whereas this particular method, last index of, what it's going to do is, it's going to traverse the entire list and it will return me the last element that was found in the list and then return the index. Okay, so ideally this method should return me, so this is a 0, 1, 2, 3, so it should return me 3, and this one should return me 5. Okay, so you can see, so this is returning 3 and this is returning 5. Okay, so the next method that we will look into is your set method. So basically, say for example, if I want to replace element in a particular index, so I can use this set method. So what I'm doing is I'm replacing the second index with Australia. So that means Iceland is going to get replaced with Australia. Okay, and we have another method called clear. So what this clear method does is it cleans out the array list. That means it will delete all the elements. So let's run this program. Okay, so you can see Australia has been set to the second one. Okay, and since there is nothing in the list, so nothing got printed. Okay, hi, next we will look into the variable which we saw earlier, the mod count variable, and we'll understand what is the usage of that variable. Okay, so before we get into the details, what I have done here is I'm looping through the array list. Okay, and I'm checking whether the country is equal to Iceland. If it is equal, I'm trying to remove the element while I'm iterating over the array list. Okay, so let's run this program and see what happens. When I run this program, I get a concurrent modification exception. Okay, so this is something which is not allowed in the collection. I cannot loop as well as remove elements in the same loop. Okay, so many of Java collections produce iterators that are fails fast, which means that if the collection is changed after an iterator is created, the iterator will be invalidated and throw a concurrent modification exception as soon as it can. Okay, as compared to failing later or returning invalid data. So in order to support this functionality, the collection has to keep track of whether it has been modified or not. Each time a collection has changed, it increments the mod count. So when the collection produces an iterator, the iterator stores the value of the mod count from when it was created. Then whenever we try to use the iterator, it checks to see if the saved mod count is different from the parent's collection current mod count. If it is so, the iterator fails with the concurrent modification exception. Okay, so let's run this program in a debug mode and see how it is working internally, right? So I run this program. Oops. Yeah. So this is where we created the array list. So you can see the mod count value would be increasing. Now as soon as we start iterating, okay, what's going to happen here is, now you can see two variables now. So whenever we iterated, the iterator actually started maintaining another variable called expected mod count. So initially the expected mod count value was set to the original ArrayList mod count value. Okay, and now let's loop over this ArrayList and then we will see this value is getting changed. So you can see the cursor position of the iterator as well. Okay, now the country is Iceland. Now you see, now we saw these values, so size got reduced to 7 and the mod count value increased to 7. That means something was modified in the ArrayList, whereas the expected mod count value is still 6. Now when the iterator calls the next method, what this next method is going to do is it's going to check this expected mod count value to this mod count value. If it is different, it's going to throw that exception. So since it is different here, as soon as we fetch the next value, I'm going to get an exception. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. So if you enjoyed, please click on the subscribe and the like button, and in the next video we would see a different collection type.